We ready, Tim? Okay. I'd like to call this meeting of the Sparks Planning Commission to order for Thursday, January 20th, 2011. Would you like to call roll, Tim?
Commissioner Barnes?
Here.
Commissioner Lean?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson? Absent. Commissioner Nowicki?
Here.
Commissioner Voles?
Here.
Commissioner Sanders?
Here.
Commissioner Sperber?
Here.
Assistant City Attorney Doug Thornley? And Community Services Director Neil Cruz.
Here.
Okay. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes from December 2nd?
Move to approve as submitted.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention. Thank you. Announcements and committee reports? None? Informational items? Welcome Art Sperber to the Planning Commission.
Welcome, Art. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
And public comment. Would anybody from the public like to come down and comment on anything on or off the agenda for 3 minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on. Public hearing item, CA 3-10, City of Sparks.
Jim Rundle, Senior Planner, here to present a code amendment change to the adult business ordinance for the Sparks Municipal Code, Chapter 20. In some time ago, 2 years ago or so, the Planning Commission reviewed changes to the industrial zoning code. Those zoning changes were pretty comprehensive and included a number of pages to which changes were made to the Title 20 of the zoning code. One of the changes was removing the commercial district in the industrial area and replacing it with a commercial area within the industrial zoning district. The Commission may remember the 600 feet from Glendale, 600 feet from Gregg, and 600 feet from McCarran and Rock, where I think the 4 streets. Those essentially, the 600 feet was chosen because it allowed for a reasonable amount of adult businesses to occur within the zoning district of industrial. What I forgot to update at the time was the adult business chapter of the municipal code, which is on, let's see, page 3 of your staff report. You can see that we've struck commercial as the zoning district which adult businesses are allowed in, and now they'll be allowed in the industrial zoning district. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions for Tim? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead, Tom.
Jim, I was just going to ask you something real quick. Would this also fall back to, on the municipal code 20.91, which is the industrial use table?
Yeah, and if you look on the industrial use table, adult businesses are a permitted use, and it's supposed to be within the industrial district. And we all discussed that when we approved that adult industrial zoning code change, but I forgot to include the Chapter 2059 in those changes. So now it will coordinate with that section 2091.
And also 2087, which is locational requirements?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that table you're looking at says S and then L.
Right. So there'd be...
Special use permit, but it's restricted to the locational standards.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
Mitch, did you have anything?
Oh, that was part of my question, so.
Okay. All right. This is a public hearing item, so we'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to speak on this item, please come down, state your name and your address, and you've got 3 minutes. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the to the Planning Commission.
Mr. Chair, you ready for a motion?
Yes, I am.
I move to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council, the code amendment request associated with CA-3-10.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item, PCN 11001, Tronas Property Management.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. For the record, Tim Thompson, Senior Planner. Before you tonight is a request for tentative and final approval of an amendment to the Kylie Ranch South Plan Development Handbook. As some of you may recall, within the last 12 to 18 months, we processed an amendment to the Kylie Ranch South Handbook relative to the Los Altos Crossing development on the corner of Los Altos and Sparks Boulevard. The alterations to that section of the handbook were related to signage and specifically related to monument signage. The Aspen Glen Shopping Center, which is located on the northwest corner of Los Altos and Vista Boulevard, is also within the Kylie Ranch South Plan development. They have also approached the city and are seeking to amend the sign section of the handbook to allow them to do monument signs as well. What they found is that many of those tenants and buildings kind of sit down in a hole and off of Vista Boulevard, and what they'd like to do is put some monument signage out along Vista Boulevard to get some of those businesses a little more exposure. Over the years, that particular development has been problematic for the city with regards to signage and temporary signage, A-frame signs that seem to be in the landscape planner and all up and down Los Altos. And our hope is that with this amendment, we can try and alleviate that code enforcement issue that we've had with this development in the past. Essentially, what we're doing is really leveling the playing field, so to speak. Some of these planned developments, some of those sign restrictions are so restrictive that it puts these centers at a disadvantage when it comes to commercial development in general within Spanish Springs. And so what we're trying to do is really just level the playing field and give these folks the ability to do monument signage, much like other commercial developments in the vicinity would be able to do. Staff has made all 21 findings. We don't believe that this particular amendment affects the plan development in any way or affects the intent of the development, and we are recommending that you forward a recommendation of approval on to the City Council for both tentative and final. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Tim?
I have a question. Does this, if it's permitted, does it permit monument signs on both Vista and Los Altos?
Yes, it would.
And is there any limitation on number?
The code allows a site, so regardless of the number of parcels or different ownership, if it meets the definition of a site, which this center would because it shares common access, there's common parking and easements throughout the center, so that entire development would be considered one site. And the code allows a maximum of 7 monument signs per site, and you get 1 sign for every 10,000 square feet of site area. Because the parcel is in excess of 5 acres, they could potentially have 5 monument signs.
The large sign that is already there, is that considered to be a monument sign? And is it one of the signs that would be allowed?
The existing freestanding sign that is there, when this development was originally approved, the handbook did not have any allowance for that sign either. Basically, they were restricted to building signs and nothing else. And several years ago, we processed an amendment to the handbook to allow them to do that freestanding sign that you see. And the handbook allows them the ability to do 1 freestanding sign, which is that sign, so they wouldn't have the ability to do any more than that. So this amendment is strictly talking about monument signage 6 feet or less in height, and we're looking at a max of 7 throughout the development. And then as far as how big those signs could be, it's really dependent upon how much available sign area each tenant has, which is challenging for us as well. So that could limit the number of signs.
How does, is this the developer or? Oh, okay. How does, I'm thinking through, there's 10 or 12 businesses in there now, probably, something like that. So how does the owner or the developer determine who has an opportunity to put up a sign, or is that their choice entirely?
It's their choice. My suggestion to, there's, I believe, 7 parcels, and there's, I think, 5 different owners involved. Only 2 owners have approached us to actually do this, the El Dorado Savings Bank as well as the building to the north, which houses the UPS store. The owner and property manager for that building, they're just looking at getting some more exposure, and so they are the ones that have initiated this request. So we have, 2 property owners of, I believe it's 5, that are requesting this. It's likely that at least initially those 2 pads would have monument signage, which would leave the other 5 to
Figure it out.
for them to figure it out. Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? Okay. Would the applicant like to say anything before we open the public hearing?
Hi, Derek Wilson with Rubicon Design Group on behalf of the site owners. First of all, I think Tim did a good job, and I don't think I need to add quite a lot here. I think the important point is that the area has changed quite a bit since when that handbook was developed and when the site was initially developed, and I think that changes on the site are therefore warranted. It's more built out around that area than it used to be, and I think if anyone that's been driving south on Vista would agree that sign is very difficult to see. Yeah, it to the point that I would like to go back in time and revise it a little bit. So I think what we're doing here is keeping pace with some changes in the area and keeping that area competitive. I think it's a useful center. I think it's well located, and I think it deserves to be brought up to current standards and be economically competitive. The other important point is that the temporary signs that I think the city has chafed under a little bit will go away with this, and I think that's important. Also, no animated lit signs, no reader board type signs are going to be allowed under this. So we're essentially matching the C1 standards with some additional restrictions. Additionally, it will be in the property owner's interest to co-locate their signs on a monument. I think the first builders are going to probably leave space for some of their co-tenants to share space on that sign. I don't think anybody wants to see 5 monument signs lined up. I think they'll pair up and limit the total number of installations. And I think that covers my major points.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, just sorry to be dominating this, but I drive by there every day, so I think about this. How does anyone control other than the city ordinance folks, if they were willing to be aggressive about it? Let's say there's a monument sign for 2 or 3 of those businesses, but another business doesn't have a monument sign. It either isn't willing to pay for it or whatever would stop them from doing that. But they choose to put out one of those A-frame signs or a flag or whatever. Who other than the city enforcement office enforces that?
One of the owners that we're dealing with is a property manager, so it's in their interest to keep the entire site looking good. I'm not, to tell you the truth, I don't know how aggressive they've been about that. I think they've been kind of trying to live with a bad situation, but I could certainly go to them and encourage them to be aggressive about that. And it's in their interest to do so.
From my standpoint, I mean, I'm relatively certain this is going to be approved, but I would encourage the owners to try to be more aggressive on that, because if we're going to try to make it look better, it should look better.
Right.
Is there a time that, if this is approved, that you anticipate they'd be up?
I know the 2 property owners that have brought this application forward are anxious to move pretty quickly.
Okay.
I get a little uneasy when people ask me for time schedules, because then I turn around and I get a call from a lawyer telling me that they have to work out. So I've inadvertently misled people before, but I think they're anxious to move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have another question?
No.
Okay. Now open up the public hearing. Seeing no movement, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to forward a recommendation for tentative and final approval of a request for an amendment to the Kylie Ranch South Plan Development Handbook associated with PCN 11001, adopting findings PD1 through PD21, and the facts supporting those findings are set forth in the staff report. Because the request includes final approval, the Planning Commission does not recommend that the City Council require a bond at this time, as stated in NRS 278A.490.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. On to general business. First item of business is election of the Planning Commission officers for 2011. Do we have nominations for chair? Yes.
I nominate Tom Lee.
Okay. Any other nominations for chair? Okay, seeing no other nominations, we'll close the nomination process. All in favor of Mr. Lean as chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Tom is the new chair. Now, I'll open up nominations for vice chair.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Mitch.
I nominate Doug Voles for vice chair, if he's willing to accept.
Second.
Any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Good, all right. Tom Lean will be chair and Doug Vold will be vice chair. Review of Sparks Planning Commission Rules of Procedure. Do we have any changes anyone would like to make? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Comments from the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Tom.
I just say it's been a pleasure working with you as a commissioner, as you being the chairman. You've done an excellent job. You're on top of your game when it comes to this, and I just appreciate working with you.
It's been a very easy year. Unfortunately. Yeah, okay. We'll leave that alone. Any other comments? Well, Art, it's great to see you here.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you. And Art, we expect you to be at the next meeting, too.
I promise. All right. With no other comments, we are adjourned. Thank you for your time.
Tough.